Hello viewers, welcome to the video, thank you for joining. Okay, so we have some Suzuka action for you, daily race, and well, you know, I was looking at the daily races and there's definitely a bias towards the Japanese circuits, which seem to come up all the damn time. And this is no exception, of course, Suzuka being in Japan, as you all know. So we can see how we go here in Group 3, as these guys do battle and start abusing each other through the spoon curve. Let's see if we can go past this Mazda Atenza. Brave boy for going for something that isn't a Porsche 911 on this race. It turned out that for this race, for this circuit in Group 3, the Audi R8 was the best car for qualifying. But then everyone decided to go for the Porsche 911 for the race. So of course there is often a difference between the best qualifying car and the best race car, depending on the tyre and the fuel settings available. So moving up to 8th, up behind this guy, oh actually now down to 9th at this point, in the Rich Energy livery, better than a Red Bull. And this guy, well, I don't even know how to explain that, just pushing me right off the circuit. Well, actually the only explanation I can offer really is that he's ramming for money. And if that is the case, then, well, fair enough, mate, you deserve it. Down to 15th, one incident and I lose about 6 or 7 positions. These two guys fondling each other again through the spoon curve. Seems to be a prime sucking zone. So we regain a couple of positions back to 13th. Can we go about getting this 12th position off this German? We have a yellow flag, no overtaking. We're going to ignore that, of course. He goes defensive. We're not going to be able to go through though anyway. We are going to get or try to get a better run and go for the move on the way out. He's covered the inside line. He knows I'm there. Going to the right hand side. I'm going to have to go left, which is eventually going to be the outside line for turn 1 and then turn 2. So kind of turn 1 is almost like just an entry for turn 2. As we go in, he's sliding and there's contact. I tried to back off. And you just know he's coming. There it is, the penalty, 2 seconds. Obviously I caused that. Obviously I just used the force on him by being quite close and just made him spin because of my sheer presence. This guy gets sucked off. Plenty of that going on today around Suzuka, or Succubus, as it shall now be renamed. Get the petition signed, lads. Right, through Degner 2, and oh god, another sucking incident. Up into 9th. It's just happening everywhere. Later on we go for our pit stop and I completely forgot about fuel saving, so I did an awful job on that front, although I did manage to catch up with our French friend here, who we had a notable running together with, or an altercation with, on, well, this very corner coming up. You see that actually the penalty he received for that incident. And he should be very afraid right now because I'm not in a particularly nice mood right now as we come through Dunlop Curve, coming towards the 2 Degners. He knows what's coming. He should do anyway. There's the first bump. Goes wide. Comes back on. Okay. He's gonna stay there. Please vote in the comments whether this is justified or not, based on the earlier incident in the race. As we come into the hairpin, off he goes. See you later. And let that money come rolling into the account once again. Ram for money is back, even though I'm on the wrong account. We pull away. No penalty for that one, somehow. So I get a penalty when it definitely wasn't my fault, and I get no penalty when it was just a 100% blatant push. No worries, we finish in 8th eventually, after some guy was spinning through Dunlop. And that's a good insight into how to do that race. I think the main thing is the fuel, but we do need to improve our qualifying, which we are going to attempt to do here. So just over 2 minutes was our best lap, 2 minutes .468. That is the time to beat. Into turn 1, turn 2 then. Always looking for that late apex to get the power out as early as you can. Through the S's, let's see how we tackle this. Now this section, in this car, I mean this car is really a slidey boy. It does like to be driven at an angle most of the time. And I think you do need to drive at an angle to get the best speed out of it and to get on the throttle earlier than you normally would. So So through Dunlop, really maximising the track limits, sweeping through onto the left hand side, braking just before the 50, making most of the curb on the inside for the first apex, and then the second up towards the hairpin. Looking for the curb on the right hand side, braking just before the end of it, down a couple of gears into first gear, hooking up with a late apex, then powering away in a straight line as much as possible. As we come up towards Spoon Curve, looking for the tarmac on the right hand side, there it is, just before the 50 board. Might have just spotted that, out to the outside, and then coming back towards the late apex. There, getting on the power as early as you can onto this back straight before 130R. Taking the short line, move to the right hand side, just a lift through the apex, keeping it on the track, on the exit, braking just before the 100 board on the left hand side, there we go. Down a couple of gears, down to second, clipping that first apex, really can abuse this second apex and get the straightest line you can on the exit. Keeping to the right hand side to make sure you minimise the distance to the line. The time is going to be at 1:59.5. I am happy with that. We can exit and go about our business in the next race. Here we go. On pole position, I am one of only 2 members of the SS here, so I should be in a prime position here, especially as well on pole, to do well. So we do need to change our approach in this race. Of course, being on pole is a lot different than starting 10th as we did in the previous race, as we stream towards the first corner. Now the main thing I did briefly touch on, and the main thing we're going to have to consider in this race, is the fuel. So these kind of races are often won just on fuel saving. You often get these races where you're sitting in a train of about 84 cars, and then everyone is just sitting there saving fuel and then waiting to kind of get the time differential in the pit lane. And I think this is going to be one of those cases here, as I kind of did that in the previous race. I did gain on a couple of guys ahead by saving a tiny bit of fuel, but I could definitely do a much better job of it. So instead of revving all the way to the top of the rev range, kind of shifting about halfway up the bar there. Coming towards the hairpin, you can see the stream of cars following in tow as we come towards the hairpin. There we are. So it's going to be a very close race indeed, on evidence of this first lap. Lots of Porsches, everyone in a balanced car, or most people. I think the guy in 4th is driving the Corvette. So a couple of different cars. As now the Red Bull livery, Porsche, looking up the inside into the Spoon Curve, and he's going to get the job done. And I wasn't going to fight that one. There's a good reason that you could always sit in second in this kind of race, especially when the guy in front has got the same car, is that you can save fuel. It's easier to save fuel when you're in the slipstream. You know, if you're within that couple of tenths distance behind, you just sit there and short shift even more than you normally would, or maybe even use the leaner fuel settings. Normally it's easier just to short shift. So we can save a lot more fuel than the guy in front. So I'm quite happy for him to sit in front. The risk is, of course, that we make a mistake and drop off. So it's really my job here in this early stage of the race, just to stick as close as I can, and maybe even go for an assault before the pit stop phase, just try to retake the lead. But for now, I'm kind of content with just sitting in position, sitting pretty in second position. Just make sure we don't lose any more positions though. We don't really want to start dropping down the order too much, as that time gap can just open up. So just grazing the grass on the way into the S's, but we keep it under control as we come further round. And the guy ahead is actually beginning to pull away slightly, which isn't good news. Into Dunlop, we'll really just make sure it doesn't get too far away. As long as it stays around about 7 tenths or less, then we're in a good position. They're coming up into Degner 1. There we go, through there. The tyre wear isn't too bad. This race really is all about fuel. So that's why I kind of did that first race without doing a great qualifying session, just to really get an idea of what the race is all about. And it turns out that this race really is about the fuel. The tyres, you probably could do a whole race on the same set of tyres, probably not the best idea, given that you do have to pit anyway. But it really is about the fuel saving, or just the use of fuel. So we're going to see if we can make that strategy work, and we'll see how the comparative fuel loads are as we go into the pit lane later on. So slightly wide through Spoon, and he's actually dropped off. I've actually dropped off there. I'm now going to be on the back foot up against the Ukrainian from behind. So you can see I'm going slightly defensive up the straight towards 130R. I don't think he's going to go for the move though, so just settling back into the racing line to make sure we get the full angle for the turn. Again, grazing the curb on the exit, so making absolute use of all the track and more on the way out of 130R. Through the final chicane and sweeping down towards the main straight. So again, actually here just about 7 tenths behind, so I think we are just within the range that we need to be. The leader there setting the fastest lap on that lap with a 2:01. Can we keep with him and just make sure we don't drop off too far? A little bit wide through turn 1. It's a really difficult entry to turn 2 there. We are going to flash forward here. So lap 3 and 4 and most of 5. Very similar. You see the gap still around about 9 tenths, just under a second. So it hasn't really changed too much. And it kind of was a very similar situation, which is exactly what I was kind of hoping for. So this is the part of the race which we have really been waiting for, the pit stop phase. End of lap 5, we're halfway into the race. 10 divided by 2 equals 5, for those of you maths enthusiasts out there. Into the final chicane then. Is he going to go into the pit lane? I'm presuming he is, as we come through the chicane. And we're going to sweep over to the right hand side. He doesn't, he's going to stay out. It's actually really easy to go into that wall there on the entry to that pit lane. Quite a long wait, as I suppose this is a Grand Prix circuit, Suzuka, so you've got quite a long main straight, long pit lane as well. So the Porsche boys being patient. There we go. Let's get rid of those tyres and get a new set. So this is the main thing here. We are going to go with a slight underfuel, which I think is the better strategy, because of course as the car gets lighter it uses less fuel, which it will be in the second phase. Now is this a penalty? Should this be a penalty? I was always wondering this, because I used to be someone who would always stay within the white line on the exit, but then I thought, you know, everyone just abuses that, so what's the point? And you don't get a penalty for it, so who cares? I wouldn't mind if they implemented that rule, that you have to stay within the line on the way out, but as it is, just abuse it, who cares? I don't know. So, okay, settling into third, so I think 2 guys, well of course the leader didn't pit, and it seems that 1 more who's got through. We'll see later on. Just loving these camera angles on this replay on the replay shots. Really, really beautiful angles here at Suzuka. Into Decken 2, you see the guy up ahead, the German. So he's obviously going to be on slightly worn tyres at this point of the race. And I did actually gain quite a lot. In fact, 3 seconds ahead of Hockey Max, who was the Ukrainian who was giving us a bit of grief towards the end of the stint, or most of the stint actually. He was right behind me for the majority of that the first stint. And you can see just how much I gained as a result of fuel saving and therefore having less time to spend in the pit lane. 3 seconds ahead. It's a massive gap, it really is, when you think that we were basically equal in the first stint. This German is just going to give us a nice tow, so he's actually right in the perfect place to give us a tow down this back straight for free. I'm just gaining time for free right now. Thank you so much, mate. Coming through 130R, clipping that apex beautifully. And we're just going to hope that we don't get kind of held up here as we come into the final chicane. The leader goes in, he's got 20% of fuel. We're going to see exactly where he filters back out in just a moment's time. So the German going to peel over to the right hand side and smash into the barrier. Oh man, that is a big no-no. He actually gets a penalty for it as well, just to rub it in, just for good effect, you know. But it's easily done. In fact, I almost did it on my pit entry just a moment ago. So coming through the first turn and just looking for where Big Batch is coming out, and he's actually come out in 6th place. So he's actually turned into Super GT there. And, well, he's completely messed that up. I was just wondering why he waited 1 lap. You might as well just pit on lap 5, to be fair. Although the tyres aren't too bad. Maybe going for the overcut to have fresher tyres in the second stint, but it really hasn't worked out for him, as he's dropped right down the order. And now I'm in a really comfortable position, more than 4 seconds ahead. So it kind of shows you this race, if won, is going to be won just on fuel. Purely on the fuel strategy, sitting in behind, short shifting, getting the run in the pit lane, having less time in the pit lane, and then just managing the gap from there to the end. So at this point here, over 4 seconds, and we can skip forward to the end of the race, lap 10 now. So just managing the gap. Hockey Max did come back at me, the gap 2.4 at this point here, but I'm well in control of the race. I could afford to kind of be really patient on the fuel, and in fact here 4% of fuel left, so I've managed it quite well, in fact very well. I could have even fueled a little bit less than I did, so I carried around maybe 3% of fuel more than I could have done. But at the end of the race we're going to come over the line to finish in first, which is a rarity these days. I haven't had too many victories in the recent weeks, but happy with that one, as we come across the line 2 seconds ahead of Hockey Max to finish in first. Big Batch there, 4.8 seconds, will be disappointed after leading the majority of or leading the entire first 6 laps of the race. There's a further look at the results, and that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. That in fact was my 91st victory, which pulls me level with Michael Schumacher of all people, and getting the trophy for that. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Subscribe for more of the same if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.